Hey everybody, Graphite Forest here. Today with another video about how to draw. Today's video is about trees and cylinders basically. Now, when you're talking about trees, you're talking about a cylindrical object that has a cone towards the end of it, and the cone, it's like the middle part of a cone. So this is a regular cone. See? It's like a traffic cone. And you'd shade it kind of like that. Light towards the middle and dark on the sides. Yeah, kind of like that. And then finishing up the shading and then giving it a shadow. Right, so this is the shape. These two shapes are what make up a tree, basically. You have the cylinder, which is the trunk. You have like half of the cone, so see, like that portion right there. And then the branches are all just cylinders that taper off into a point. Now, one thing to remember when you're drawing trees or anything organic is not to draw straight lines. Straight lines are a no-go. You want to have at least somewhat of a curve to your lines. That's because organic shapes, or things that are alive, they don't usually ever follow an exact mathematical way that they're built. There are exceptions to this, of course. There are exceptions to most rules. But in general, that's what we're going for. Now, here are some examples of trees. Here's a winter tree, and here's a one with the full foliage. Now, look at this. You see all these little tiny lines? No. You're not going to be drawing all those. I went with the basic idea right here. I use this as a reference to make that. Now, here's a thing to know when you're drawing from a reference. And that is, never draw exactly what you see. Here's what I mean. You're not going to be drawing every single one of these branches. You're going to be drawing basically the idea of a lot of branches. So, for instance, let me just put this right here. There. Now, you start with the cylinder for the base. And you can't see the bottom of the tree here, but it would fan out slightly. Sort of like so. Give the tree bark some texture. Remember to darken a side if you're trying to make it look more three-dimensional. And like give it a shadow and things like that. Now, this goes out into 3 different large branches. So, I'm going to give it 3 different large size branches. And as you can see, I'm not going exactly with what this looks like. Just giving the idea of it. Remember to make it skinnier towards the end of it. See? It's thicker right here and super thin right there. That shows that helps to make it look more realistic. Like if you had this big portion in it, people would be like, what in the world's happening here? It wouldn't make sense and it wouldn't look like a normal tree. Now, unless that's something you want to go for, then it's best not to try that. And of course, unless you're just experimenting and you want to see what it looks like, go right ahead. So, you want it to be generally thicker at the base than at the tip. That's the way trees work. So, 3rd branch, let's do that. Alright. There, see? Like that. Now, as you can see, these don't look very similar. They do kind of have a sort of similarity, but not a whole lot. It's okay to draw a couple of the branches, and then give it a few little straggler pieces of branch and stick and things. And then off of, it looks like, yeah, that has another branch coming off of it, sort of like that. A good strategy to use is to do little segmented lines like that instead of just a straight line. The advantage of that is it gives it a rougher look, but it does detract from a more professional look, but no big deal. Now, this one also branches off right here. All right. There. And we can probably make this one a little bit thicker. Right. Now, this is just the general basic idea. It's not to be taken like this is the only way to draw a tree. And of course, you can make up a few branches. Just remember to follow the basic branch style in a way. You don't want to have a bunch of squiggly lines coming out of this tree, basically. So, and then you just do a bunch of little offshoots, and then little offshoots off the offshoots, and then make sure that it is thicker at the base than it is at the tip, like that. That's too thick. So we're gonna make this part thicker to account for that, and things like that. And you just keep doing this and keep doing it until it looks good. Now, I am not that great at drawing trees. I've had a little bit of experience, but there are definitely better tree makers than me. And I am, sorry. Anyway, so just keep making little branches that go off of the main part. And remember to keep thicker at the base than at the tip. And as long as you follow that basic structure, you should be fine. Now, I've not really been looking very much at this because I'm just kind of going for a organic kind of shape. Okay. And I'm going to bring another branch in. And an important lesson to learn when you're drawing three-dimensional objects is to try to overlap things. When things overlap, it makes it look more three-dimensional. You can make certain parts look like they're further back, and certain part looks like they're in front of the other parts. Like this branch right here is behind this branch. And then keep adding little offshoots. Gotta keep turning my mechanical pencil so that it doesn't get super thick like that. And just keep doing that. Just don't make it organized in a way. You want it to have some structure to it, but you don't want it to look mechanical. You want this to look like a living thing. So, remember to draw curved lines, but not too curved. You don't want a big S curve in a tree because that does not normally happen. It can happen on occasion, but it's pretty rare. So, you have a basic tree shape going on here. I'll add a couple more branches to this. And one of the points I'm trying to get at is do not try to draw all the branches. Don't do it, because there's well over 1,000 branches here. So it's not a good idea to do it. I mean, you can if you're really that dedicated to it. I mean, if you really want to do it, okay. But I wouldn't recommend it. And just trying to add some thicker branches. Gotta turn my pencil again. And just keep doing that. And eventually it will be filled up enough that you'll be like, yeah, that looks good. And I like how this is looking. Remember, overlapping. Overlapping makes things look better. Now don't overdo it. I'm starting to overdo it here with too many branches. But look, it's a basically similar sort of structure and shape. So let's review a couple things. First of all, go with organic lines, but not too curved. Right here we have a nice little S curve, but it's almost too much. It's all right, but it could be better. Now, in here we have thicker at the base, thinner at the ends, very thin. Like this is about how thin these lines are compared to these ones down here. Now, remember, cone shape for the base of the tree, cylinder shape for the trunk, and a cylinder / cone configuration for those. Again, this is a cone, it's a cylinder. I'll draw it bigger so that it's easier to see. Here is a cone. And cones are shaded. They're shaded almost like a rectangle, except if it were rounded. I know it's a little weird to say, but you have light towards the middle. And of course this obviously depends on your lighting and whether you want this to be an open cylinder or a closed one. And what I mean by that, just a second. Alright, if it were an open cylinder, then you wouldn't see white on the top here. Let me just give it a shadow real quick. Remember that cylinders have a rounded and then straight. It's like straight at the sides and rounded at the end. That's the kind of shadow they have. Then if you want it to be an open cylinder or one that's hollow, you do the opposite of the lighting that you have here. So it gets darker on this side until you get to the end, and then it's super dark. Alright? And that gives the illusion that it's hollow. And then for a cone, you have, well, I've drawn it there. I'll draw it again. I'll draw it again big real quick. And of course, there's different kinds of cones. You have rounded tip ones, then you have more angular tipped ones like here. And with this one, it's similar to the cylinder, but a little bit different. It's going to be lighter on the bottom here, and then it's going to get darker over here. I'm still a little inexperienced at drawing cones. Something like that. And of course, I'm keeping the lighting scheme pretty pretty consistent. All the lighting is coming from this direction. Anyway, so I think we've learned how to draw a tree without any leaves on it. Alright, thanks for watching. I hope you found it useful, and talk to you guys later.